Guys, so this is what if Deku was on the dark side. Now you're probably gonna get this video like right after I posted, like an hour after I posted my what if Deku was Ant-Man Part 2 what if. I am going to be posting what if Deku was Soldier Boy on Friday, and I'm also going to be posting what if Deku was Half-White Dragon maybe later today. But yeah, so I am also going to take about 2 request videos of anything. It can be a request video of a series I stopped making a long time ago, or just a whole new series entirely. You just go down in the comments and pretty much put a suggestion or anything, and even a suggestion of a stop motion, a what if, or like a whole entire different video, like literally anything. But yeah, so let's just dive right into the video. What if Deku was on the dark side? Now this is the reason why I made this what if, I just saw an edit on TikTok about Luke Skywalker, so basically that's basically the whole reason why I made this. Also, the fact that I really want to see Deku more brutal and a lot more, let's just say, cynical, as I've had made Deku in the past and other what ifs cynical and brutal and dark, but not as much as I'm gonna make him as dark and brutal in this one. I'm gonna make him a straight up villain, but you guys can decide if he becomes a villain in the end of this series or an anti-hero. But yeah, so let's dive right into the story. And we start our story off in this universe's pretty much space. Now in this universe, pretty much pretty simple. It would be about 2 different universes in this dimension or timeline. Basically, in the My Hero universe, pretty much pretty simple. The dark side and the force and overall the the empire and everything like that, basically it would all be the same thing. The My Hero universe wouldn't be straight up Star Wars, but basically the My Hero universe will have sides to this. So during this time, basically this would be the first show of the force and how the force would react and stuff like that. In the Star Wars universe, like Yoda, Luke Skywalker, they don't really exist too much, but Yoda the character does exist, and other Star Wars characters do exist in this universe. They're just off in space or in different planets, very similar to Earth. So quirks are still a thing, yes, but basically in this world, Star Wars or people still live on Earth, and basically the Star Wars universe is somewhat the same. Empire, the dark side, those aren't really, well, they do exist, but in a very far corner of the universe, hella far away from Earth. So, pretty much, yeah. So Deku will come across other beings in the Star Wars franchise, just an anime style and an anime universe. So enough of that little, glaze over this universe's Star Wars. So let's just dive right into the story. Now we start our story off with Izuku Midoriya and his birth. As Deku be born on Earth by Sashi and Inko Midoriya. As Deku would be born on Earth and somewhere near Japan in a very forest-like area, as Deku would grow up here. By the time Deku would turn about 3, Inko and Sashi would have moved back down into the city of Japan and a nearby house a couple blocks away from their original apartment. It being a generic 2-story house, a 2-story Japanese house, nothing too, expensive or anything too much like that. So Deku would have used his time and pretty much the years of him growing up to pretty much look up to heroes as well. But Deku growing up, for some reason, he always had a spark in his eyes. He was always darker. He was always driven to do things that normal people would have some sort of morals or values not to do them. But Deku didn't care. As long as he got the job done, Deku didn't care if it had to sacrifice his whole humanity. Deku didn't care about humanity, morals, and anything like that. Deku just did whatever he wanted. Deku would never throw fits. He was always quiet as a kid. He never really did much at all. When Deku turned 5, they went to the quirk doctor on his 5th birthday to figure out, what his quirk was. Now, just be simple, Deku isn't a bad kid. He just was, well, let's just say darker, or more or less villain-ish, but not villain enough for his parents to actually not like him. They still loved him though. So Deku went to the quirk doctor with Inko. Sashi was overseas, and Inko pretty much, was taking Deku to the quirk doctor. The quirk doctor Sadly, said Deku was still quirkless. As Deku is shocked and overall filled with dread and anger, more anger than he ever had in his whole life, him feeling like he could do anything, as he has a daydream of murdering the doctor. And Deku snaps out of it after the doctor tells him that you can go and I'm very sorry. Basically, Inko grabbing Deku by the arm, not grabbing him, but holding his hand and pretty much walking him out of the doctor's office. As Deku goes back home, and we get a time gap to when Deku goes back to school about a couple of weeks later, after he confesses that he's quirkless. As Bakugo starts to bully Deku, but Deku doesn't tread lightly. He doesn't let people bully him in this canon or in this story. Deku was a lot more confident in his ability to be who he wants. He's a lot more confident, and he doesn't let people push or throw him around like a rag doll. So Deku, to put it simple, he fights with all his heart not to get bullied by Bakugo, and fights in very brutal and sadistic ways to get Bakugo off his back without using a quirk. Without him having a quirk, he can still hold his own against Bakugo. Now, Bakugo would have pretty much been very much confused as Bakugo started to bully and tease Deku. Eventually, when Deku started to get bullied physically by Bakugo, Deku would have punched Bakugo off bat when Bakugo was about to throw an explosion at him, and they would be about 14 doing this time. Not 14, about, let's say, 10 doing this time, as this would be the first time Bakugo really tried to throw an actual, hurtful, really painful explosion towards Deku's face. As before, Deku just got pushed or shoved by Bakugo. As Bakugo threw explosion at Deku, and Deku dodged it, grabbing Bakugo's wrist and punching him up the nose, or just straight up, uppercutting him in the nose. As Deku would stand there, just shocked and stunned, but not really too much. As Bakugo would have been also way more stunned, and he would pretty much walk back, as his lackeys would be very much surprised that Deku fought back, even though he had no quirk. As Deku said, I'm not no punk. Basically, him getting into a fighting stance, as Bakugo would have gotten pissed and would have thrown more explosions, barraging Deku with explosions, and literally blowing him up, having third-degree burns on Deku's forearms and pretty much thighs and shins. As Deku would be on the ground, and this would be in the alleyway near the school, or a hallway, a very very deep, hallway very very deep into the school that most of the janitors never went into. As Deku would be left there, and hours later before school ended, because it would be around I think the last period, and Deku's last period I think would be about gym, and that day gym wasn't doing much of anything since it was a Friday. So Deku basically woke up hours later, probably 30 minutes before the bell rang, as Deku would get up, as not 3 minutes before the bell rang. The bell would ring and people would be, bell would ring and people would start to leave the premises. As Deku would have grabbed his backpack, pinning it back on his back and walking off, as he would have just ran down his sleeves back over his burns, as he would have powered through until he gets home. As he would have tend to his wounds when he got home. As for the past couple of years, we get switched to pretty much flashbacks and other montages of Deku fighting back against Bakugo. As Bakugo is a lot more angrier towards Deku, since Deku doesn't really let himself get punked. He doesn't let people walk all over him. He at least tries to fight back, and he never, ever is, pinned into submission. He always fights back. It doesn't matter how dirty or how dirty or beaten up he is. So during this time, basically over the years, Bakugo starts to bully Deku more and more, and eventually Deku overall just doesn't appreciate it. He doesn't allow himself to get told Deku, but he still gets called that because of Bakugo's rumors and overall Bakugo's influence on the class. We switch to about when Deku was about 16 or 15, as we get to switch to canon time of the anime. As Deku will be sitting in class, as Bakugo pretty much would still be doing his same speech after the class teacher or the teacher would have said the whole thing about, I know all of you guys are going to be pro heroes. As they'd all be told they'd be pro heroes, blah blah blah, and this would be about a week before the last week of school. As Deku would just be scoffing in the back of the room, as Deku would have also signed up for UA as well. Him just wanting to spite Bakugo in overall all his mess, and Deku just wanting to prove somebody wrong and trying to prove himself that he can do whatever heck he wants. As pretty much The teacher is kind of confused and kind of worried for Deku as he says, though, you're quirkless, Deku. How do you expect to get into UA? Him, saying it in a mean way, but not meaning it that way. As Deku is pissed off and just walks out the class as he shuts the door. Now, I did not mention how Deku looks. Deku looks like his more manga-like style, like the first, sketch of him. Not like exactly, he just looks the same. But Deku has black hair and red eyes for some reason, even though he doesn't have a quirk. So Deku walks out the classroom, or Deku doesn't have red eyes. Yeah, so sorry, that's wrong script. Deku does have, does look the same, like in canon. His hair is a little bit darker, a lot more of a darker green. So Deku pretty much goes outside later that day, as pretty much the school bell would have rang that time, as they would have been released. As over the weekend, Deku would have been walking to Daku Beach on Saturday morning, as he would have tried to clear his head. As Deku would walk time and time again, trying to clear his mind, as he would have looked through the rubble and trash and everything like that on Daku Beach, just looking at the scenery away from the trash from Daku Beach. As he would just try to sit there and clear his mind, as he would eventually be met with some sort of memory or vision. As Deku would have pretty much had a daydream, him being in some sort of dark room, as he would have looked around, him being very much confused, as he would have saw, a man with brown hair and red eyes, as he would have some sort of silver tube or handle in his hand, as he would have looked at Deku and told him that destiny is here. As he throws the silver handle to Deku, Deku grabs it and is very much confused, saying, what does this mean? As he looks up and the man's gone, as he slept there in the dark void. As Deku wakes up, basically miles away from Daku Beach in the forest. As Deku looks around, and he's very much confused on how he got here, as he looks around and is very much confused. Now, that man Deku talked to was Anakin Skywalker, or Luke Skywalker. Pretty simple, Luke Skywalker in this world, pretty much Deku is the reincarnation of Luke Skywalker. Or not a reincarnation, but one of his descendants. Sorry, not Luke Skywalker. Anakin. Basically, he's a descendant to Anakin, and Luke Skywalker in this universe does not exist. So pretty much pretty simple, Deku was, given this chance. As Deku would look around, as he would see some sort of weird tube or ship type thing, as he would have looked towards it and walked towards it, as he would have opened up to show some sort of handle of some sort of tube handle like thing that was silver, as it would have been. As Deku would have opened it up, as it would have had, not opened it up, but he would have picked it up and it would be looking somewhat like this, as it would be a lightsaber. As Deku would look at it and examine it, as he would have pressed a button on the side, as it would have instantly glowed up with some sort of red light coming out of it, a red laser that would only go as far as a couple inches or a foot or a couple feet or a couple inches, as it would have been a lightsaber. It being the exact same lightsaber Anakin used near the end of his, whole entire climax is his story becoming, Darth Vader and stuff like that. So basically, pretty much Deku would have looked at the lightsaber, him gazing at it and feeling more power than he's ever had in his whole life, him feeling like he's in control, him feeling like a god. As Deku would grasp the lightsaber harder and harder, and the blade, or the pretty much light becoming more brighter, pretty much lighting up about 13 feet away of just pure red light. It would blind anybody that was straight next to Deku. As Deku would have let loose of the lightsaber, as Deku would have pressed the button and the blade would go back, or the light would go back into the handle. As Deku would have looked at it and more examined it, as he would have been smiling, a grin smile. As Deku would have walked off out of the forest, as he would have closed the pretty much tube or whatever ship container it came in. It would be like a container or pod it would be like a pod somewhat exactly like the Benton pod the Omnitrix came in when he landed and got to Max. As pretty much he would have grabbed the tube and he would haul it back to his house. It would be pretty heavy, but he'll be able to haul it back to his house. as he would have hauled it back to his house. His parents were home at the time, and Ochaku was, pretty much not Ochaku. Inko was getting her hair done, and Sashi was overseas. Like I said earlier, as Daku would have pretty much went into the house and went to his garage, and they would barely use their garage. Their garage basically was Deku's man cave. It just had a bunch of his posters and pretty much tech like that, and overall stuff like that. And Deku wasn't nerdy. It was just there for Deku to be silent, and it was kind of like a Zen pool type area. It was very Zen-like, as Deku would have pretty much. So pretty much Deku started to look through the tube, as it would have been a second layer in the tube, or pretty much pod, as he would have opened it up, and it would be a suit or some sort of black gi of sorts, as it would also have a logo on the back of it, some sort of triangle-ish black and white logo. As Deku would just brush that off, as he would have started to not playing around, but started to mess with the lightsaber, as he would have started to swing it around, feeling like it was like built for him, as he would feel connected to it, like it was made for him. As Deku would be a complete master of the lightsaber in a span of a couple hours. As Deku would eventually get more used to it, as he would turn it off, as he would go back into his garage, because he was in the backyard playing, but not playing, was messing with the lightsaber, or training, I guess. As Deku would have opened up the tube more and more, finding boots and an outfit, as he would have put it on, as it would have felt or fit like a glove. It being a little bit loose, but that's for, growing. As the outfit would have been exactly like pretty much the suit Anakin wore before, he was sliced up by Obi. So basically it's the same outfit Anakin wore before he, somewhat supposedly died and then came back as Darth Vader, or before Anakin thought he was dead and before he came back as Darth Vader. So pretty much Deku put this outfit on, as he would have pretty much found another lightsaber in there, but having blue. As he would have another vision, as his eyes would go bright red, as his hair would start to turn black. As Deku would have another vision, as he would see two different versions of himself. Seeing a version of himself with bright green hair, with a more lighter outfit on, a white and tan outfit, the same outfit Luke Skywalker wore, pretty much with a blue lightsaber, and him as he's in the outfit right now, with black hair, red eyes, and a red lightsaber. As Deku's pretty much real self, the middle version between the two different versions he's seeing, pretty much a blank version of himself, just a silhouette of himself in a white bright light. As he would have told Deku, your choice is yours. As he would have told him that in time, yourself will make the decision for yourself. As Deku would say, what the? That makes no sense. As Deku would instantly be kicked out of the, vision. As Deku would have woken up, as he would have been in the backyard with the outfit off, and really folded up surprisingly very neatly in his drawer, as his two lightsabers would have been in his drawer as well over the outfit. As Deku would have just been very much confused. As Deku, then the next morning, pretty much his day or his school life would have gone exactly the same until the last day of school, like in canon, as the teacher would still bring up the hero, pretty much the heroes and stuff like that. And I don't know, you want to be pro heroes, like I said last week. Now it's time for you to actually do the paperwork, guys. Now, as they do the paperwork, they still to kind of, make that whole Bakugo makes the same exact speech, but a little bit more emphasized this time. As Deku just scoffs in the back, but very much loudly and obnoxiously to make sure Bakugo hears him. As Bakugo walks towards Deku, and Deku just scoffs at him and looks away. As Bakugo says, that's what I thought, clunk, as he pretty much flips Deku's desk over. As Deku gets pissed off and grabs the book off the floor and slaps it over Bakugo's cheek, as Bakugo's pushed back on another person's desk, as one of the kids said to get off my desk, with Bakugo saying to shut up. As Bakugo throws another explosion towards Deku off the bat before he even throws a punch. And Deku, for some reason, he holds his hand out, and Bakugo and Deku are sent flying through the room. As Deku is sent flying 6 feet back, but still on his feet, as Bakugo is sent through the building wall into another classroom. As Deku is extremely surprised at this, looking at his hands. As the teacher says, "I thought you were quirkless, Deku." As Deku goes later that day, Deku's mother is, called to go to the school to pick him up. They take him to the quirk doctor, and the quirk doctor can't figure out how Deku has a quirk, even though he has the 2 joints in his pinky toe. He has some sort of power quirk. It's very much incredible. He is a late bloomer. I don't even know if he has a quirk or not, but it's definitely power he can use to become a hero if he uses it well. As Deku was very much excited, but also confused on how he just manifested now. As Deku would have another vision as he fell asleep on the ride back home, as it would be a vision of pretty much a flash of Anakin's whole lifespan until the moment before Anakin was hit with the lightsaber Obi-Wan, almost killed him with. As Deku would be confused on how his life just ended there, as he was confused on what that life I saw, those memories. Now, it wouldn't be full memories, it would just be a flash of pretty much Anakin's whole life from him as, a youngling all the way to when he became a member of the Darkside. As Deku would have to face facts of who you want to be, a villain or a hero, or a person that doesn't care, or a person that will face any person for the right task or the right cause. Now, Deku, you guys can decide if Deku is become a hero or straight up on villain, but it's going to be a lot of an inner conflict Deku's going to have to face later on. So during this time, Deku is sent back home. Pretty much, Inko is very excited for Deku to have a quirk. She does call Sashi inside. Sashi is very much excited, and they want to, pretty much celebrate. As they make some sort of plans to celebrate later that week, or later that month. As the 10-month arc training begins the next day, as Deku goes to Deku Beast to train, as he pretty much takes his backpack, and his backpack has the 2 lightsabers in it, and also some water and stuff like that to keep him hydrated as he works out. And Deku goes to Deku Beach and pretty much sets up a regimen or a type of way to work out. As Deku first wants to, lift some weights and just run around, as he sees that Deku Beach's trash is getting in the way multiple times, as he decides that it will be a lot big of a workout to move all these garbage and middle scraps around, as he would have started to move it around left and right and started to pretty much push it left and right and pretty much just overall do what he needed. As eventually he would find some sort of scroll or something. As he would have looked down, as he would have seen some sort of scroll, as it would have some sort of burn marks like it came out of the sky. As Deku would open it up and it would be in a language saying to find the diamond. As Deku would be confused, as he would turn it back and it would say hashtag Kyber Crystal. As Deku would just chuckle saying, I don't know who wrote this, but they are stupid. As he would have ripped it up and threw it away, not really caring much about it. But eventually Deku will recognize what that was for later on. Now Deku would have, over the course of the couple 10 months, about 2 months to spare after Deku would have completed it and taken down all the trash and made it a paradise, making pretty much Deku Beach clean and fresh again. As Deku would have started to do more running in the last few months, and also train with his lightsaber, becoming somewhat of a near pro with a lightsaber, as he would be like a pretty much a pro at a lightsaber, or almost like near Darth Vader levels of lightsaber skill. So he's pretty skilled. Deku also trained his force abilities and also trained his physical power, as Deku would have the same body he had after the 10-month arc training in original canon. Now Deku would also train his force abilities, as Deku would have he would have different abilities tied to the force. Now let me go over the abilities Deku has when he has the connection to the force in this canon. This fanfiction, So Deku has pretty much force healing. Deku also has the ability to levitate and push items away from him, like telekinesis. Deku also has the ability to use Jedi or Sith mind tricks. He can basically make people see things, or pretty much tell them what to do, and pretty much influence their minds to do whatever he wants. But he can only use it a certain amount of time, doing a day. But Deku later on in the future can do it whenever he needs to. Now, Deku also has the ability to see things before they happen, like not visions, but more or less precognitions of what's about to happen, and minutes or even seconds into a fight. So minutes or seconds or even hours before a fight even starts, he can see the whole fight and see how it even plays out, so he can change it and make it better. Put it simple, Deku can literally win any fight he goes up against, kind of like Sharingan basically. But basically, he can only see it in his first person point of view. So he has to, if he was hit in the back where he was side blind, he has to figure out where he was side blind from. So yeah. So basically, Deku, he has all the force abilities. And just for fun, I'm gonna give Deku the lightning ability, Dark Sidious. He would have the same electricity manipulation abilities Dark Sidious has, but Deku will manifest his powers later on in the future. So pretty much, Deku has the base force abilities, and also has, training and other things like that. Deku can also use the force around his body to make himself stronger, or to jump incredibly high, or to dodge and do other things like that. Deku also can use the force as a shield, kind of like how other telekinesis users in like One Punch Man or in Mob can basically use their telepathy or pretty much their powers to do defense or offense. So basically, Deku can switch with using this force to move objects, or to pretty much push objects away from him, or to keep objects at bay from hitting him. So if someone kicked him, their foot would be stopped dead right, like just overall their momentum would just stop as soon as they get like an inch from Deku's skin if they try to punch him or kick him. So during this time, Deku would complete some of his most, physical and training, like hand-to-hand fighting. Now, Deku would pick up boxing and swordsmanship over the 10-month art training, alongside basically focusing on his telepathy on smaller objects or smaller animals, that are similar to human, pretty much mind, as he would pretty much be able to, control other animals like wolves, dogs, and other things like that. So basically, other animals are a little bit more intelligent than dogs and wolves, but other things like that. So basically, Deku would just train his body and try to make himself as strong as possible. And during this time, Deku would eventually, he would sign up for UA like he did with Canon, and he would go to the UA entry exams after the 10-month art training was over. As Deku would go there, him being in a black version of his jumpsuit, a plain, like straight up black version of his jumpsuit, but with the sleeves tucked up, and him signing his lightsaber as a support item, as he would be told that, pretty much it's a support item. Yes, as Deku would lie about one of his powers being that he can conjure energy into the support item, aka his lightsaber. But basically, put it simple, they pretty much told Deku not to use it too much, as Deku still had it. He just, Ida still made a fuss about it, as Deku would just tell him to shut up, and he would look into his eyes as his eyes would turn bright red, as Deku would intimidate Ida into shutting up. As Deku would be able to switch back and forth to his green eyes and green hair, as he could also switch back and forth to his Sith form or his anger form, as Deku will have two different sides: his anger, like his full-on beast mode, and also his normal type, personality, his green hair. Now, Deku isn't, as nice and charming as he was in canon. He is still nice, but he isn't a pushover wussy like Deku is in canon. He's more of a laid-back personality. He had the same personality as Anakin Skywalker before he turned to the dark side, or when he was right on the verge of turning to the dark side, before he went all into the dark side. So Deku pretty much is just sitting there. They get told the basis of it. Deku does, pass the pretty much rain exam, and they are all told to get ready and pretty much start. Now, Deku and the rest of the students bolted as soon as President Mike opens the door and says there's no real countdowns in a fight, or there's no real countdowns when you're a hero. As Deku books it, as Deku starts to run around, as Deku starts to crush robots and throw them around like rag dolls, using his force ability to rip them apart and throw them around. As Deku does that for a lot of the robots, eventually him using his lightsaber half of the time to cut the robots when he gets close or the robots get too close to him, as Deku eventually comes across the zero pointer. As Deku puts away his lightsaber and starts to force jump away, as Deku is, stopped when he hears screaming. As Deku, a part of him wants to leave and just forget about the scream, as another part of him goes for it anyways. As Deku runs down there and he pushes some rebel off of a girl, a brown-haired girl, aka Ochaku Uraka. As Deku grabs Ochaku and books it out of the zero pointer's way. The zero pointer stomps where Ochaku was, pretty much indicating that if Deku didn't jump in, Ochaku would have died. As Deku would have started to bolt and but pretty much force push him like fast enough. So basically, pretty simple. You know how you're running in place, but you're like not touching the ground. Basically, Deku's doing that. He's levitating himself centimeters away from the ground, so it looks like he's like super speed running. So he's literally just flying centimeters up in the ground to imitate super speed, but he's just speed blitzing left and right. So yeah, so basically Deku speed blitz about 15 times to recover a girl. It takes him about 15 times to speed blitz, and he can speed blitz about 30 feet. So basically Deku eventually gets, pretty much to recover a girl, and so after that, Deku go back into the fake city to pretty much get more points in. Eventually the siren going off or the beeper going off, then being told to go back home. As Deku would go back home, and a week later, Deku would get the note from UA that he got in. Well, the video from UA that he got in. So Deku was like super excited. He celebrated with his parents, and the whole entire celebration, I did mention before the 10-month art training, Deku did celebrate with his parents, and they did celebrate again for Deku getting to UA, as they would have gone out to dinner that night. As Deku would have been walking back home, as he would have bumped into Bakugo before he walked into his house. As Bakugo would have looked at Deku and would have told Deku that I saw you in the hallways when we go into the entrance exams. When I was at the entrance exams for UA. What are you trying to do? You're quirkless, you're nobody. As Deku says, are you stupid? Don't you remember that I pushed your ass through a door with no problem? Or through a whole wall with no problem? I'm pretty sure you're not that stupid, Bakugo. So get out my front porch. As Bakugo doesn't budge and tells him that you're not gonna be anything. You're a quirkless nerd. You may not be quirkless anymore, at least, but you're still a nerd. You're still that lame little Deku I beat up every single day. And Bakugo starts to go off on Deku, as Deku still says that you're right, you did beat me up, and it's time for me to return the favor. As Bakugo is confused and saying, what are you talking about, nerd? As Deku uses his force choke to start to choke the absolute soul out of Bakugo, as Bakugo's face starts to turn bright purple, as Bakugo starts to freak out, him not being able to breathe or use his quirks, and not enough oxygen is going to his head. As Bakugo starts to freak out, him literally holding out his hand and begging for mercy from Deku. As Deku lets go and Bakugo's let go, and basically he has to gasp for breath, or gasp for air, as Bakugo walks off saying, you're a freak. Deku saying, I'm not a freak. Basically him saying, you're just sad or jealous that I'm stronger than you, I'm better than you, I'm faster than you. I am the better version of you. Not even a better version of you, I am better than you. As Bakugo gets pissed and throws another explosion towards Deku before Deku can do a force choke, and Deku pushes Bakugo off the front porch, as Deku gets up and pretty much, because Deku did fall on his butt when he got that explosion to the face, Deku would get back up and basically would have opened his lightsaber, his red one, and would have blasted it off, as Deku's eyes would have turned bright red and his hair would have became black, as Bakugo would be very much slightly frightened, as Deku would start to use his force to pretty much start to crack the concrete underneath his feet, because they were in the driveway, and pretty much started to like freak out Bakugo as the pretty much trash in the area and the grass and the leaves started to flow, and basically like a mini tornado that couldn't be seen, but like a mini like strong breeze of wind started to be pushed in every direction away from Deku's body as it would start to form cracks in the concrete in the driveway as Deku was about to slash towards Bakugo with the lightsaber. As before he could do that, he had a little he had a little vision of his mom driving into what was it? Showing up in the driveway and seeing Deku about to kill Bakugo. As Deku would have turned off his lightsaber and would have went back to normal, his hair turning back to green and his eyes going back to green as he would have told Bakugo to get out of here. As Bakugo would get up and saying, this isn't over, as he would have walked off, as he would have just, been scoffing and giving Deku the side eye. As Deku would put the lightsaber in the back of his pocket as he would have walked off, going into pretty much his room, putting his lightsaber up and going to sleep that night. Now I'm going to leave it off here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. And guys, go in the comments, should Deku kill somebody in the story? I might have Deku murder somebody in the story, but that would have to really make the divine. Because if Deku kills somebody, that would really make him a part of the Sith. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Because I can subscribe, and as always, guys, have a blessed day.